Caleb Wilson is going to be the best number 8 Carolina has ever had, but you best believe he ain't about to outscore the legend, Jim Jordan.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch to get your Wednesday going the right way. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Special shout out to all you everydayers here with us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, all you great insiders of the program. All those links are in the show notes. Join us. We'd love to have you. Coming up on the show today, well, Carolina didn't announce it, but Caleb Wilson sure did. He's going to be number 8 this year, so we'll look at the history of that number and make some predictions with it. ESPN released this week their ACC football projections and preview, and don't look great for the Tar Heels from their point of view, but they do love them some Bill Belichick, I'll tell you that much. I got a Project 28 update for you. What's Project 28? I'll tell you about that later on. It's something we came up with here on the show. Heels, once again, elite amongst the nation's athletic departments. And also, we'll talk a little bit of Summer League. No Drake Powell going to be playing in Summer League for the Nets. Let's start off, though, with Caleb Wilson, the man, the myth, the legend, the highest NBA projection on Carolina's roster this year. Carolina has not officially yet released their basketball jersey numbers. Football team has, though. They've been rolling it out by position groups. I think it's all out now. You can go see all that. Expect the basketball team to do that at some point soon, maybe once Luka is on campus. But Caleb on social media on Tuesday put up a picture of his locker there in the locker room, and it's got number 8 on it. And a very official looking number 8. It's not just some temporary tag or something like that. No temporary tattoo. It's not just rubbed on with water. This is legit. This is what he's doing. So he was 24 in high school, going to be wearing, it looks like, number 8 for the Tar Heels. As a reminder, this is just going to be the 3rd year when the NCAA has reopened the ability to wear jerseys that have a number beyond 5 in the ones place. NBA has done that for a while, but in college basketball for a long time, it was anything like you could, because of how refs signaled things, you could do like 11 or 12, 13, 14, 15, but you couldn't go up to say like 77. I guess you couldn't do stuff above 5 in the tens place either, now that I say that. Anyway, it is a rare occurrence to have a number 8. Caleb will become the 11th Tar Heel of all time to be number 8, most recently worn by, anybody remember? Paxson Wojcik 2 years ago. That was the first year it was allowed in the 23-24 season. The other guys, including the legend Jim Jordan, who I mentioned earlier, you probably were like, what do you mean legend Jim Jordan? I don't even know who that is. Well, we'll get to Jim Jordan in just a second. Chronologically, the other guys that have worn this, here's some Carolina history lesson for you, boys and girls. Ike Minor, the first one to ever do it, 1931-33, and he played also in 34 and 35, scored 8 career points. Earl Ruth was next, 35-38, 388 career points. Bill McCatron, 1936-37, and again 38-39, 224 career points. Bob Rose, 39-42, 538 career points. Barney Poole, that's a name for you right there, 1943-44, 6 career points for old Barney. And then our Jordan played from 1944-46, scored 694 career points, and he has the distinction of being the only other Jordan surname in the entire Carolina record book, along with some other guy with the last name Jordan. Jim Hamilton wore 8 from 46-47. He scored 312 points. Fred Rip Ryan, that's another great name, 1946-48. He scored 99 career points. Dick Patterson from 49-51 scored 268. And then that works us back to Paxson Wojcik, who scored 51 career points. So nobody wore the number 8 at Carolina from 1951 was the last year Dick Patterson wore it, through Wojcik wearing it in 2023. Yo, that's crazy. That's essentially what, 7 decades worth of no number 8. And obviously part of that you couldn't. So the question for me, kind of the fun one to consider, is where is Caleb Wilson going to fall on the all-time list of Carolina number 8s? Grade 8s. Now, I mean, with all due respect to that list of guys that played in the 30s through the 50s in Paxton Wojcik, I think it's quite plainly obvious that Caleb Wilson is going to be the best to ever don Ocho for the Tar Heels. But my question is, where will he be on the list of leading scorers that have worn number 8? Because my man Jim Jordan dropped 694 points. That's the highest. Bob Rose second at 538. On down to Barney Poole 6. So there's some considerations when we have this conversation. Where's Caleb Wilson going to fall? Unless something just goes wacky or awry, this dude is pit stopping in Chapel Hill for 1 year. I know, I hear those of you that are saying, yeah, but look at Ian Jackson going to play for St. John's. Sure. That's rare that it's going to be that occurrence. And Caleb's game is different than what Ian was trying to do, and what Ian was trying to do on a team with RJ trying to do that is the thing. So I think we're looking at, can he score? How many can he score in 1 year? We're going to assume health here. And I mean, I will say with Jim Jordan's 694 points, I don't think we can just sit here and assume that Caleb Wilson is going to be the all-time leading scorer to wear number 8. Why? Well, if you look at the single season all-time leading scorers, only 14 times in Carolina history has someone scored more than 694 points in a single season. Tyler Hansbrough, by the way, did it 3 times, which is insanity. The leading single season all-time is Lenny Rosenbluth at 897. And so to get to 694, Caleb Wilson would have one of the 15 biggest single season scoring outputs in Carolina history. I believe that Carolina is going to need to call on him to score a good bit. I don't know that they're looking to expect that kind of output out of him. 694 is crazy. So as you look at this list, there's 4 guys that scored under 100. I think 100 is a no-brainer. So that makes Caleb at least the 7th leading all-time scorer to wear number 8. And I'm thinking when you start doing like averages of scoring average and how many games will Carolina play, there are 31 regular season games. Carolina could ostensibly play 3 or 4 in the ACC tournament. Hopefully no more than 3, because that means you got the double bye and you went to the finals. And no more than 6 in the NCAA tournament. So essentially you could play anywhere from like 4 to 9 postseason games, meaning you're playing anywhere from 35 to 40 total games. So let's figure out some averages, right? To see where Caleb's going to fit with this thing. If he averaged 10 points a game and Carolina played 35 games, well, that's quick and easy math for you. That's 350 points. If he scored 10 points a game and played 40 games, let's say Carolina made it to the national championship game, that's 400 points. But if his average score goes up to 15 points a game and he plays 35, that's 525 points. And if it gets to 15 points in 40 games, that's 600 points. Still, even with that, you see how crazy it is to try to get to 694. I don't think that's going to happen. So 350, the lowest of these, averaging 10 points a game over 35 games. I think that's insanely doable for Caleb Wilson. I think that, again, assuming health, is probably honestly the floor for Caleb this year. And that would put him 4th on this list. Jim Hamilton has 312, and so that would supplant Jim Hamilton in 4th with 350 points. I think, 10 and 40, I feel like if Carolina is going to play 40 games, Caleb Wilson is going to score more than 10 points a game. So I don't think that one's really a thing. And so I would think that 15 and 35 of those 4 things I mentioned is probably the most plausible, 525 points. But for me, I think it's probably somewhere in between all of this. I wouldn't be shocked if Caleb sits at like 13 points a game and Carolina plays 37 games like they did last year. And you're like, well, that doesn't make sense because I think this team will be better. Yes, but remember, Carolina played an extra regular season game last year because the Hawaii game doesn't count. They played an extra NCAA tournament game because of the play-in, and they played an extra ACC tournament game because they were what am I looking for? That were a single buy instead of a double buy. So there's some extra games. So if he averaged 13 points a game, Carolina played 37 games, that'd be 481 points for Caleb Wilson, making him the third all-time, leading scorer to wear the number 8. Jim Jordan, 694. Bob Rose, 538. I just thought that'd be a fun exercise to do, to figure out, like, hey, where might Caleb Wilson fit with all that? What do you think? How many points do you think Caleb Wilson's going to drop this year? What kind of output is he going to have? All right, let's switch from basketball to football, and then we'll come back to basketball and some other stuff to wrap the show. What does ESPN think about Carolina football this year? How do they think they're going to do? Not very well and not very much. I disagree. I'll tell you why in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, summer sports are in full swing. And whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, man, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following all the action anyway. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your silly friends are off getting sunburned at the beach. You can use FanDuel to track your favorite matchups, and the FanDuel app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, it's fast to pay out, and makes every regular season game even more exciting and feels like a must-watch event. So whether you're placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet right on into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're part of the action. How about some national championship odds for college basketball this year? Purdue actually leads the way at plus 900, followed by Houston at plus 1,000, Duke at plus 1,300, and then Florida, Kentucky, Michigan, St. John's, and UConn all tied at plus 1,700. New to FanDuel? Cool. New customers. If you get a $5 bet and it wins, you're going to get $150 back in bonus bets. Check it out. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. In basketball, we talk so much about like Ken Pom and Torvik and all these advanced metrics websites. Well, Bill Connolly is working to do that for football. And so he, each offseason, kind of writes a conference capsule for each conference, looking at some projections, predictions, and legitimately there's a capsule for every team. It's really good stuff. And so his ACC capsules just came out. And so I thought it'd be really good for us to check out the Carolina stuff, see what their projections are, see what the thoughts are in his capsule about Carolina, unpack that, have some takes, and we'll move on from there. So first off, it never ceases to, like, it always catches me off guard. What a big deal Bill Belichick is. Like, I know it. I've always known it, right? But it's just like, man, this is a thing for people. For example, this entire article about the 2025 ACC football season starts off with a 24 recap. Makes sense. Here's what the teams did last year. Here's where they were. Here's who represented the ACC. Clemson slid in at the last moment. SMU made it, all that kind of stuff. But then literally, always, it's there somewhere. The last line of the 2024 recap blurb to open this article, not even anything has been said about this year yet. But that last line of the recap says, quote, "Oh yeah, and then North Carolina hired Bill Belichick. Can't forget that," end quote. It's like it's going to happen always and forever, it seems like. And so there's just this interest in what we're doing. There's this intrigue with Bill Belichick being here, right? And so let's take advantage of it, man. I'm really excited to see what happens. But ESPN is less excited to see what Carolina does. Connolly's projections have North Carolina 11th out of the 17 teams in the ACC. He has them 54th nationally. The offense rated preseason 39th, the defense 74th. So what's kind of scary about that projection, if that proves to be true anyway, is that the offense continues to take steps back from the heights of the Sam Howell, Drake May era of Mac Brown 2.0, and is good, but not elite anymore. The problem, though, is that the defense sitting at 74th has got to catch up. Now, obviously, these are projections, and ultimately, and I'll read you his blurb about Carolina in a second, nobody knows what to make of this football team. Anything any of us say about it is pure conjecture. We don't know. Connolly doesn't know. And so we're going to have to wait and see what happens on Labor Day with TCU and go from there. Strength of schedule rank. This is something we've talked about. 68th. That's 15th lowest in the ACC. That was Freudian. Out of the 17 schools. He projects Carolina to get 4 conference wins out of their 8 conference games. I'd like to push back on that. We'll do so in a moment. Percent chance to win the ACC title, 2.6%. Probably accurate, but we'll see. Percent chance to get 11 plus wins, 0.4%. Percent chance to get 6 plus wins, which would mean bowl eligibility, 75.6%. So that's the thing. I think people assume Carolina is going to get wins to get bowl eligible, but not do much else. So what's interesting beyond all of those projections, where Carolina is very middling, I would say. I mean, I guess that's like the back end of the top third of college football. He tiers out the 17 schools into 3 tiers. Connolly does. And as we look at this, it's going to be another chance for me to remind you about the weakness of Carolina's ACC schedule. The first group he's got tiered is conference title / CFP contenders. Clemson, obviously, at the top of that, followed by Miami, SMU, and Louisville. Second tier is the biggest group. This is, quote, a couple of breaks away from a run. Florida State, Duke, NC State, Georgia Tech, Carolina, Virginia Tech, Pitt, and Cal. And then the bottom 5, he calls them just looking for a path to 6-6. They're just trying to get bowl eligible. And those 5 teams are Boston College, Syracuse, Virginia, Wake Forest, and Stanford. If you remember the ACC schedule that Carolina will play, let me say for you again, the 5 teams that are in looking for a path to 6-6, meaning the 5 projected worst teams in the conference. BC, Carolina does not play them. Syracuse, Carolina does play them. That's on Halloween up in what I still call the Carrier Dome. Virginia, we play them. Wake Forest, play them, and Stanford play them. If Carolina's only going to get 4 conference wins, that means, assuming these projections are correct, they should beat these 4 bottom feeders. Literally the bottom 4 teams he has listed in his projections. But that means then that Carolina would not win any of their other 4 conference games. Obviously, hosting Clemson is a difficult task. But it's at home, and it's the first ACC game, Carolina's 5th game overall. I mean, I feel like you got at least a puncher's chance to win that with it being at home. And if I remember correctly, yeah, Carolina has their 4 non-con games: TCU, Charlotte, Richmond, UCF, a week off, and then Clemson. So not only that, but you got a week off both before and after the Clemson game. That helps, right? But even if you lose that Clemson game, that means you're assuming if Carolina only gets 4 wins, that they don't beat Duke, State, or Cal. Maybe not, but I feel like you get at least one of those. And so 4 conference wins, I would take the over on that. Maybe not by a ton. Maybe you're 5-3 in ACC play or whatever, but still, give me the over on that. The other thing, let me read the Carolina capsule that Connolly wrote. He said, I wrote this back in the spring, and I still mostly feel this way, but not completely. He said, quote, depending on how kind you are, Belichick has surrounded himself with either known entities or yes men. 2 Belichicks, defensive coordinator Steve, DB's coach Brian, 2 Lombardis, general manager Michael, quarterbacks coach Matt, and other key former NFL assistants, OC Freddie Kitchen, special teams coordinator Mike Pfeiffer. He has raved about enjoying popping pads and yelling at tight ends, and he's regarded as a good enough teacher that, for all we know, this unheralded roster might develop well and thrive. Or not. I have no idea how to set expectations for this, end quote. I think that last sentence, like, whatever, about the first part of that, but the back end of this is so true to me. For all we know, this unheralded roster might develop well and thrive. Or not. I have no idea how to set expectations for this. That is the Carolina football talking point of this offseason. Who knows what's going to happen? He says, I still mostly feel like this. I feel better about my thoughts about this team because of the addition of Lopez. And it remains the scene with Max Johnson healthy. Again, I said earlier this week, he could very well win QB1 coming out of camp if he's truly good to go. I like that there's going to be a battle. He says, I also like the offensive line heft that Carolina's brought in, a lot to go on there, but he questions the skill positions, understandably so, not from a capability standpoint, but from a standpoint of being unproven. What are you going to show me? And so we got to see that. And then he says, of course, the defense is starting over, right? And so many of the guys you assumed were going to be some of your dudes this year are gone. And you have other guys that are coming in, some of whom I think are going to be good players, but again, unproven. And Carolina's defense has not been great, right? That has been their downfall in the past several seasons in a big way. So, I think most of that is fair assessment. It's wait and see mode. It is, we just don't know mode. And so Carolina could be second or 15th or anywhere in between. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me. So we'll see. So anyway, there's ESPN stuff. There's a really interesting continuity table in there as well. I'd encourage you to go check that out. Really interesting stuff about how many guys teams bring back and all of that. So when we zoom out and look at the athletics department as a whole, Carolina is once again among the nation's elite with the athletic department. And also, sad news, Drake Powell not going to be playing in Summer League. We'll talk about all that coming up in just a second. If you're a regular on this show, you know that each Friday and each Monday, we have a weekend whip around where we get ready for the weekend ahead of all Carolina athletics. And then on Monday, we recap what happened. In light of the House settlement and everything that's happening with that, and it becoming tougher and tougher and tougher to continue to field all the teams that you want to field, I have now dubbed this idea, this hope to fight for all of Carolina's 28 athletic teams. I'm calling it Project 28, where we just continue to keep these teams, all of them at the forefront, cheering them on, just trying to spread the good news, spread the good word. I'd love for you to join me in that. Maybe we just start hashtagging Project 28 all over the place and people are like, what the crap is that, right? And then it's our little inside joke. I love it. Anyway, as part of that, when you look at the athletics department as an entity, as an entirety, I think you're probably aware that Carolina is pretty good at a whole bunch of different sports, but maybe you don't realize quite how dominant an athletics department the Tar Heels have. And they do. Carolina has 28 athletic sports, obviously 2 team national championships this year. You had both women's lacrosse and women's soccer. Great stuff there. Well, the Learfield standings it's a group of standings, and I'm sure there are people that quibble with the counting and how the standings are and all that. Fine, whatever. But Carolina is routinely in the top 10 of these standings. For this year, for fiscal year 20 or academic year 24-25, they finished 4th overall. Texas led the way, followed by USC, Stanford, Carolina. So 2 ACC schools in the top 4. That's part of why you want Stanford. After Carolina rounding out the top 10, you got UCLA, remember a Big Ten school now, same as USC. Then Tennessee, Florida are 6, 7. Ohio State, 8. Oklahoma, 9. And Duke, 10. So you got no Big 12, no Big East in that top 10. It's weird, though. You've got a couple former Big 12s and you got a couple former Pac-12s that are now in the ACC, the Big 10, and the ACC. So there's all of that. And the way this is tabulated is they count a school's top 19 sports. 5 of those 19 have to be both basketballs, men and women, baseball, women's soccer, and women's volleyball. And then they take your next 14 best sports from that year, and that's how they tabulate your score. So, thankfully those are sports. Those 5 that it has to be, Carolina's at least decent in all of those and won a national championship in one of them, nearly made the World Series in baseball. Women's volleyball is on the come up, and men's and women's basketball both made the NCAA tournament. So, that's great. So Carolina finishes 4th in this thing. And I think why that's so important is in this day and age where we're trying to figure out, what do we stay in the ACC? What are we doing? Where do we go? You've continued to hear the narrative that Carolina is going to be sexy and attractive to SEC, Big Ten, whomever it is. And that's it right there. Beyond just Carolina, and sure, other schools, if you're watching this, if you hate watching this, get all your academic fraud jokes off, fine, whatever. Carolina is one of the most reputable academic institutions in our country. Beyond that, they have consistently one of the top athletics departments in the entire nation. They have worked to solidify that in this new era, and I love it. I don't think they're going anywhere. And when it comes to the history of these standings with the Directors' Cup, it started in 1993-94. That was the first season of it. Carolina actually won the first ever. They've never won it again because literally every other year since then, it's either been Stanford or Texas. I'm not even remotely joking. Stanford literally was first in these standings every year, the 94-95 academic year, all the way up through 2018-19. There was no winner in the 1920 year because of COVID. And then in the 5 years since, Texas has won 4 of 5. Stanford won the other in 2022-23 season. So literally only 3 universities have ever won the Directors' Cup: Carolina, Texas, and Stanford. In the 31 total years of rankings, Carolina has been top 10 25 times. The only schools with more are Stanford, who's been top 10 all 31 times. That's insanity. Florida, who has been top 10 all 31 times, and Texas, who is one more ahead of Carolina. I mean, that's really, really incredible stuff to maintain that high level for that long. Texas has 26 top 10 finishes to Carolina's 25. And so what that tells you is how encouraged you should be to be a Tar Heel, first off. But secondly, how desirable this institution and this athletics department are to whomever it is, because they're going to represent you well and consistently year after year after year. That excellence, that consistency is so desirable, and that's good news for the Tar Heels. Love to see another wrapped up year of just great athletics performances. Let's do it again in 25-26. By the way, you know, if you're a regular, I always do a top 10 biggest stories or most impactful stories from the academic year before. We're not missing that. It's just we haven't gotten to it yet. I usually do it around the end of July or early August, so be on the lookout for that. One other Project 28 note is former men's Tar Heel, or former men's tennis player, Rinky Hijikata is into Wimbledon semifinals in doubles. That's great news. And per Carolina men's tennis, the first Tar Heel to advance that far at Wimbledon since Don Johnson did it in 2002. So over 2 decades now. Great stuff from Rinky. He's having a really solid professional career. Love to see that going. Let's keep cheering on all our Tar Heels. As for Summer League, I mentioned no Drake Powell. He's having like left knee tendinopathy. I'm assuming that just means tendonitis. And so precautionarily, the Nets are going to hold him out. The team considers it minor, apparently, from Brian Lewis's reporting, who is the Nets beat writer for the New York Post. And so bummer not going to get to see Drake in action, but seeing other guys. We had a RJ Davis versus Harrison Ingram matchup on Tuesday night. Lots of fun there. Got to wrap the show this way. We yesterday had our Trivia Tuesday. It was interactive. I did it. I challenged you to say if you could get 8 out of 10 or better, I'd give you a shout out on today's show. So heard back from a lot of you on Tuesday throughout the day. Thanks so much for interacting with it. We're going to try to find ways to do this more. I don't know if we'll do it in the main chunk of the show. Maybe we'll do it as shorts and we can interact that way. I got to think more about how to package it so that it can be impactful and fun, but want to keep doing it. Let's start from those who got 8 and work our way up. And it's very possible I missed some of you. I tried to make sure I found everybody's that messaged me and respond to it and check in. So if I miss yours, please let me know so I can give you your shouts. Getting 8 out of 10. There were 3 of you that did this. Doug Higgins, who is Doug Higgins 2937 on YouTube. Warner Palmer 4401 on YouTube. That's Warner. And Jake Garrett P8R on YouTube as well. So way to go, Jake, Warner, and Doug, getting 8 out of 10. Great stuff there. Dr. T-Man 99 on YouTube got 9 out of 10. Way to go. And then our guy, Davis Wallace, who was on the show last week, got all 10 right. Davis, you are the crown jewel of Trivia Tuesday. We need to find out some prizes for Trivia Tuesday. I got to figure out what that's going to be. But the funny thing is Davis messaged me about it and thought he only got 9 right. And then actually realized as he told me his answers, he got 10. and just misunderstood what I was saying on the show. So really cool. Way to go, Davis. Way to go, everybody else. Way to get your shouts. If you are deserving of shouts, let me know, and I'll get you as well. We'll bring that around again in coming weeks. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me here on Wednesday. It's going to be a fun wrap to the rest of the week. Coach Rob will be with me on the Thursday show, and then Coach Pat Kilby will be with me on Friday. We're going to look back at our bold predictions from the beginning of last college basketball scene. I went and researched that on Tuesday, and I'm here to tell you right now, if you're looking for two dudes to be embarrassed and humbled and red, come on by the show on Friday and laugh at Pack and I as we unpack it all. All right. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. If you haven't subscribed to the show, make sure you do so right now. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to have you. That link's in the show notes. Same with Locked On Tar Heels Insiders program. That link is also in the show notes. I already said it. I'm going to say it again. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.